that for?
Just setting the mood. Okay.
Wait, was that supposed to be an opening?
Hi, everybody. I'm Princess Style. Move over a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is my sister.
Hello, all you people of the internet. Like the 5 people who will watch this.
She watched my RWBY lore video, and she thought, let's do another one together. So we're going to do one together.
But yeah, there's like a lot of characters.
I didn't really write these in order of importance. So, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, I guess. The first one I have is Ozpin.
Didn't you discuss this, though?
Yes, but in case you haven't seen the video.
Oh. Well, in case you haven't seen the video, go watch it.
Yeah, it's called, what did I call it? RWBY lore and how it relates to the Wizard of Oz.
It's the one with the thumbnail.
Yeah.
The real one.
Anyway, there I go into the Wizard of Oz and how much it's influenced the show, all the weird references. So for a really more detailed look at Ozpin's character, watch that one. But we'll just give you the short version. You want to do it because I already did it.
Okay, basically Ozpin is Oz Pinhead from the Wizard of Oz, and yes, that is his name. It's canon in the book.
In the show,
yeah.
It's his name. In the book, it's his initials.
I know. In the book, it's the first initials of all of his names because he's a really long name, and that's what it spells out. So they aren't really trying very hard.
Well, I think they're trying hard enough. How many people would have thought of that?
I mean, true, but it's like, it's kind of obvious, is what I mean. But yes, so...
Alright, he wears green. That's a reference to the Emerald City.
Mm-hmm.
The quote-unquote Emerald City. You could say it's a reference to how he makes everyone think there's an Emerald City when there isn't.
Yes, it's kind of a reference to his deceitful nature and his...
He's the man behind the curtain controlling everything. If you've seen the movie, you know this part, or read the book. And the Oz in the book lies a lot and also does other questionable, if not downright wrong things. And sends people out to fight the witch for him.
Yeah, not the best person.
Basically. Also, his relationship to the other characters is important for understanding their lore. So, with that in mind...
Also, I'm pretty sure that the insignia of his school and his country is green, so another reference.
To the Emerald City.
Not super
Also,
big.
in both Wizard of Oz and on the show, color is a huge thing, as I explained in the other video. Okay, moving on. Qrow. I touched on Qrow also, but he actually comes from 2 different stories. Both him and his sister are referenced to 2 mythological ravens that Odin, note the O in that name, would send around to gather information for him.
I mean, also Odin is an old guy. But shh. Oh, sorry. I guess that's spoilers.
Raven's part.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay. So, but he's also the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. I really wish I could, insert pictures of all the characters we're talking about.
We're not that good at editing.
I could try. We'll see what happens.
You could try.
Anyway, but yeah, he is the Scarecrow. It's not, it's, I think, kind of how often he doesn't really think for himself, but lets Ozpin think for him.
It's not that he's stupid.
He's always drunk, so it seems like he doesn't use his brain, even though we know, if you watch it, Qrow's actually very smart and competent.
He just doesn't see past.
Also, his relationship to RWBY is one of the closest, and the Scarecrow was her closest friend next to her dog. The dog thing's weird, but it's a book.
Is it weird?
It's a little weird that your only friend is a dog who you talk to constantly.
Okay,
and you don't have any other friends in Kansas. But anyway, sorry. Ironwood. I'm just covering the 4 main people here. Ironwood was the Tin Wood Man.
Kind of obvious.
The guy who had his heart cut out. Actually, he had his whole body cut off, but because it was magic, they replaced it with tin, and he somehow survived.
In the show, he only lost an arm and
he only lost about
a leg.
45% of his body. So I guess he's a little bit up on the Tin Woodsman, but he's definitely got the cold, hard thing going.
I mean, Qrow even references his characterization by, expressing how he wonders if he even has a heart, which is...
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, kind of obvious if you've read the books.
I feel like he's probably also inspired by other more like military characters, but officially it's the Tin Woodsman. One interesting thing I should note is that I did not mention this in the video, but the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodsman, Glynda, and the Cowardly Lion all end up ruling respective realms in the book series. The Cowardly Lion rules the animals. The Tin Woodsman rules the land of the Winkies after the witch is gone. Winkies is their real name. The Yellow Territory, he takes over as a more kind, benevolent ruler. The Scarecrow takes over the Emerald City, the land of Oz, that Oz ruled, much like on the show. Qrow kind of takes over for Oz for season 4.
And season 6.
And Glynda, who's based on the Witch of the North, but both the Witch of the North and the Witch of the South, who she's based on both of, rule the North and the South. So them being headmasters of each schools actually also ties into that, which I completely forgot about. Go figure.
Just so, like, did he plan this?
Many references.
Oh my gosh.
I think Monty must have read this book series as many times as I did.
How many times did you read the entire series?
The first 2 or 3, easily 4, probably 5 times. The rest of them only once. But once was enough.
Not that good?
Alright, Lionheart. This one is
obvious.
Everyone gets this. We don't have to say much about it.
You just need to watch
He's the
movie
Cowardly Lion. He gets brave for a while in the book series, kind of like how Lionheart gets brave for a while with Ozpin at the helm. Then, like, once he's kind of on his own, he's kind of cowardly again. Like, he's only brave, like, sometimes. And hello. Yeah, our grandma just came home.
I'd have to edit that part out.
Anyway, he gets brave some of the time, but goes pretty consistently to being a coward. It's actually kind of sad in the book that this happens. On the show, it's just more annoying.
It's also sad.
It was kind of sad. I mean, he doesn't die in the book.
I mean, you can obviously tell.
Nobody ever dies in the book. Ever. It's this ongoing thing.
I mean, they do kind of come close. I mean, remember that one time?
Even when they die, they don't die.
Did they ever actually die?
Everyone's immortal in the land of Oz. Interesting fact. So even if they're cut to pieces, they're still alive. Except for people who are from America, which seems a little bit unfair. But Oz is apparently in the center of, like, America or something.
America in particular?
Yeah, because that was where the writer was from, so he just said it there. That's why Dorothy's from Kansas. The Wizard of Oz was actually from... I forget where he was from.
Nebraska?
A different state. No, not Nebraska.
Pretty funny. Anyway,
that's a whole nother subject.
Back into the subject at hand.
So that's Lionheart. Glynda... She carries a wand. She wears white, which is the color of sorceresses in the Wizard of Oz.
I mean, not all
and
good ones.
Honestly,
in particular. Glynda Goodwitch is kind of obvious, but we don't really know.
I'll say this much: in the book, Glynda, the Witch of the South, is the one who ends up kind of fixing everyone else's mess,
and that's kind of her job.
I kid you not.
I'll say
she kind of solves everything at the end.
I'll say this much: Glynda was actually the first helpful character, actually coming and giving Dorothy her quest. Like, Glynda was the first one to meet Ruby and give her the chance to meet everybody else.
That's true. She is the one who,
even if she
directed her
to end up well.
to Ozpin, much like in the movie and the book. Okay, so that takes care of the well, no, not completely, because we still have to do RWBY, aka Dorothy. Just this sweet, innocent character thrown into this crazy world. Right?
I'm gonna guess.
Okay. Yeah, RWBY is Dorothy, but she also references Little Red Riding Hood.
She's also kind of referencing the slippers as well.
She also references the silver slippers and the ruby slippers in The Wizard of Oz, the key to defeating the witch and getting home. The shall we say, Chekhov's gun? Is that right?
Yeah, Chekhov's gun is where you set up a plot point and then later on use it. So, I think that's correct.
Okay, the Chekhov's gun. Or shoes.
But anyway, yeah.
So yeah, her name is Ruby, which references the ruby slippers in the movie, but she's got silver eyes, which references, I believe, the silver shoes, which are actually the book.
Or the silver kiss that she gets from, like, Glynda Good Witch in the book.
Glynda Good Witch is not in the book, Elizabeth. Just the Good Witch.
Glinda the Good Witch.
She does get a silver kiss also, but more importantly, silver, as I mentioned, is traditionally used against magic, which Ruby's eyes seem to either work against magic or against evil in general, and it's kind of like the same thing. So the color, again, is important in of itself, along with the lore of the story. All right. So that's Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she wants to protect her home, get home, you know, all that type of thing.
Since I don't think we're going to put down Zwei, I'm just going to state he's obviously Toto, in case you haven't.
Yeah, and he protects her, and that's pretty much his whole reference right there. But he's so cute.
What happened to Zwei?
Zwei is with Ty still. Last we saw him.
I like how that rhymes.
Okay, so Weiss. Oh, big shock with Weiss for me when I looked all this stuff up. Was that she's actually supposed to be Snow White. But actually, Weissny in German means white snow. The correct pronunciation is technically Weissny. But I don't know if I even said Snee right, honestly. White snow, Snow White. She's got like an apple necklace, which is a reference, just like Ruby's red color is a reference to Little Red Riding Hood. And I forgot to mention Ruby fighting beowolves in her trailer was a reference to Little Red Riding Hood also.
Yeah.
I think now that Maria's on the show, to grandmother's house we go. You know what I'm saying? Only I don't think she's gonna get eaten by a wolf. I hope not. Anyway,
I mean, I don't think they can kill off the meat.
I don't think so. But like now she's got a grandma. That's all I'm saying.
But anyway, Weiss is also a comparison to the Tin Woodsman as well.
Well, this is something she came up with when we were talking about this yesterday. She thinks that the four main girls all mirror Oz's four main people, while Oscar, who we're going to talk about in a second, mirrors him. So creating this new generational connection. And let's kind of wait till we finish the other three to explain.
We'll get back to that.
Snow White, abusive parents. Definitely. No really wicked stepmother, but absentee mother. Snow White's mom was dead, and her dad was kind of a jerk. So, Snow White does run away from home. Her butler has 7 personalities, Weiss's, which is meant to reflect the 7 dwarves. Mm-hmm. Difference is Weiss is way more of a protagonist than Snow White isn't. But also she almost died, and people think that maybe that was a reference to how she got poisoned by Cinder, who is like the witch, everyone's witch, basically.
She was stabbed.
So stabbed, yeah, not really poisoned, but same
enough.
thing. Interestingly enough, Snow White actually was attempted murder on 3 times in the original story, and was dumb enough to fall for it every single time.
4 times if you count the huntsman.
Huntsman who wouldn't kill her. So far we haven't had that, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, and then I won't say Jaune is the prince. I think her just almost dying was the reference. Not that Jaune's that just doesn't work for me.
I mean, the prince didn't really do anything other than
Blake.
Like Blake.
Blake Belladonna. Now, Blake means black, keeping with the color theme. That really has no reference that I know of beyond that. But her last name, Belladonna, would literally translate to lovely lady or beautiful woman, maybe. And that is a reference to her story, which is Beauty and the Beast.
Yay.
Adam's name is a reference to the Disney version of the Beast, whose name was Prince Adam, although it is never said once in the movie. But I guess in the remake, they fixed that. I don't think Adam's her true love myself. But it's like, you know, she was in love with the Beast and the whole faunus thing. Don't ask me if that's speciesist. I didn't write it. But, yeah. The Blake thing could have more to do with, like, her cattier color. Yeah. I'm the one who thought her costume... Well, I'm not the only one who thought her costume design totally made her look like a cat even before the reveal. I figured it out. It was funny. So that's her story, and she references that her symbol is a rose, like from the story. Belle asks her father... Belle's not really her name. It's Beauty in the story. But he asks her for a rose, which she gets, but at the cost of she has to go work for the Beast. This could kind of be referenced in how we found out Blake's parents were in the White Fang before she was. And I don't know whether the rose was white and if that's referenced or if that's just totally, like, just referencing the Jack London. It is Jack London, right? I don't know. Book, The White Fang, which is like, it's about like this wild wolf, and I believe how he's befriended by a human. So the organization's goal was to make equality with humans and respect, and it ended up turning into a terrorist organization. So deviating from what the White Fang story is really about, which is, I think, a lot cooler. I haven't actually read it, but...
Kind of reminds me of The Hatchet.
Anyway, so yeah, Adam, and Taurus is just like bull, I think. It's like a kind of beast, so... Yeah, a little heavy-handed on that, and he definitely is a beast, no question.
And not a
good way.
Not in a good way.
So that's her little story there. Yang! Yang was obvious. Very obvious. Goldilocks. Goldilocks and Three Bears. I mean, the hair. Don't touch the hair. It actually says on her wiki page that her strength comes from her hair. I don't believe that, but that's what it says. So also, I guess, a Samson reference. Anyway, she does fight Three Bears in season 1 when we're kind of introduced to she fights. And also in her kind of clip short for season 4, is it? Or season 5, she fights a bear to save RWBY. So
she fights a lot of bears.
She also gets called Just Right by the creepy guy in the bar who she beats the heck out of, which was great. And the bar itself was called Just Right. So... that's a reference.
Why would you name your bar Just Right?
Because it's just right for you when you're stopping there. Just at the right time. There's so many reasons to name your bar Just Right, other than an on-the-nose reference, right? So obviously she looks like Goldilocks, she fights the bears, and that is about it. But her name actually does translate to Sunny Little Dragon, which is what her dad calls her, which is more of a Chinese thing. Or is it Japanese?
I wish I could tell you if that was referencing a fairy tale in particular, but I don't know.
I don't think it is, but dragons are a like blessing, strength, and her dad says she like shines brighter. And another thing is Yang sounds kind of like yin and yang, which I think relates to her semblance, where you punch her, she comes back with like an equal force. The yang to the yin, as it were. Okay, that's a lot. That was a lot about Yang. That was more than I was expecting on Yang. So now we've covered that. Oscar. We gotta talk about Oscar first. So Oscar was the first name of the wizard, the real wizard, in the Wizard of Oz books. His name is also kind of just basically Ozpin scrambled a little bit with an extra E, Oscar Pine. He is also Dorothy in that he is the one who actually lives with his aunt, runs away from home to see the wizard, or really to be the wizard. He and RWBY together are both Dorothy, which explains why both of them are the ones who, in the end, kind of end up pushing for the truth in season 6 and finding it out. And also just the ones who seem just too nice and get picked on by the plot so much.
Save Oscar.
At this point, we don't know what happened to him.
He's probably going to get caught.
Okay, but now we've talked about that. Let's talk about your theory about how they relate to the...
Okay, so we've discussed the main cast, and I've already mentioned before that Blake is... Oh, not Blake. I mentioned that Weiss is a reflection of the Tin Woodsman, because she is, in the earlier seasons, and somewhat in the later ones, but not as much, referred to as a cold, icy sort of person, an ice queen. Which... Yeah, but... Anyway, the whole cold-hearted or heartless idea is kind of a reference to the Tin Woodsman wanting his heart because he didn't know how to feel. And she expresses similar emotions because she starts to warm up to people and learn how to handle liking and hanging out with other humans.
What's interesting is that in the books, the Tin Woodsman talks kind of a little bit about how now that he's made out of tin, he's so much harder to harm, but he still wants his heart. He wants to be able to feel love, and it's something he can't feel anymore. And he and the Scarecrow talk about whether or not love is that important or whether brains are more important. And the Tin Woodsman says love. And it's interesting because Weiss already has brains, but what she ends up kind of learning her friends is love. So it's layered, which I like. Okay, Blake, you thought was the Cowardly Lion.
Yes.
Not just because she's a faunus, but because she always used to run away.
Yeah,
she came to the wizard to get courage, right?
Granted, her fear was a little bit more based on not wanting anyone to be hurt because of her and not her getting hurt herself. But she still expressed fear of someone getting hurt and running away from problems to prevent that. So in a way, it does reflect the Cowardly Lion.
And she did come to Oz to kind of get a new start and learn how to be different.
Well, so cool. Yes.
Yeah. Coming to get her courage. So she's the Cowardly Lion. Yang, Scarecrow. Why? She's the closest to RWBY, at least initially. Kind of her support, much like the Scarecrow was for RWBY, Dorothy, the one who had her back.
In early seasons, you can see how she's so much more positive.
First one she met. She used to be more positive, and also Yang often, as her dad points out, doesn't really think about stuff. But since the Scarecrow does learn to think, Yang also has kind of learned to pursue knowledge.
Yeah, not be so hot-headed whenever she decides to.
It's a little interesting to see how the characters are growing into the thing that their counterparts in the books pursue.
Yeah, so they're basically like a next generation.
But the one who seems to be doing it right, and Oscar fits in, is the one who, instead of being the man behind the green curtain, is unveiling the man behind the green curtain. Love my boy Oscar. Please be okay.
So he's kind of like the next generation of both Ozpin, or
he's like
Oz from
if the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy melded together, who would win?
It's kind of a weird thought.
It better be Dorothy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That sounds weird, doesn't it?
That sounds really weird. But anyway, so that's the comparisons that I thought of.
I forgot to mention Ozpin also. We found out his real name was originally Ozma, and he was sent by the gods to kind of fix everything. And that relates to book number 2 of the Wizard of Oz series, where we find out that there was a princess, and since she was turned into a boy, it kind of fits with the show's theme of gender switching, people who either cross-dressed or in this case got turned into the opposite sex. So
what?
Yeah, RWBY has a theme like that. You know that.
Could you give me an example?
Mulan.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're kind of running ahead of ourselves here.
Okay, so let's move on before we get
anyway. So yeah, Ozma. Oz also references Ozma from the book and the ruler who's meant to fix everything, but kind of got derailed along the way. However, in the book, it wasn't Ozma's fault, but in the show, definitely is Ozpin's fault. Still kind of mad about that, but we'll see. Maybe he'll redeem himself.
I mean, he was given a pretty impossible mission.
All right, let's talk about Team Juniper. This isn't going to be as lighthearted, obvious.
Okay,
okay, I'm okay. I'm okay.
You're okay.
We're going to talk about Jaune. I wrote it in the order of their names. So we're going to talk about Jaune. You talk about Jaune.
Me talk about Jaune?
Yeah, why not? Why am I doing all the talking?
Okay, so as you all know, he's based on Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc.
Who was a war captain, female war captain who
not really a captain.
She
was
a leader.
French maiden who led them in freedom from England, and then she ended up getting burned at the stake as kind of a witch because she claimed to be able to hear the voices of saints and or God talking to her.
That doesn't seem to really have much of a connection in the hearing the voice of saints or whatever so far, other than maybe Pyrrha. I don't know.
See, I feel like this is weird because it seems like Jaune should be hearing like some kind of guidance, but maybe it's in that Pyrrha is no longer there, but she's still very much like his muse, as it were.
His guide.
His example, his guide. Hearing the voices thing would be kind of creepy, so...
I mean, poor Ruby's already having dreams with
And I think that RWBY also kind of speaks for what Pyrrha would stand for in many ways, which is why they're connected. So her and Pyrrha are almost essentially to Jaune, I think, the same person.
But basically, the idea is that Jaune of Arc, the character Jaune's based off of, was a very strange person by their standards.
Well, back then it wasn't looked well on to claim that you could hear the voice of God yourself if you were just a peasant girl who couldn't even read. Much how Jaune was very uneducated coming to Beacon, actually, compared to everyone else, and everyone thought he was a loser except for Pyrrha.
And she was a very, Joan of Arc, the person, was a very important part of the battle.
She inspired them.
And
also, though, she was more about mercy. At least it's hard to know what to believe, but from what I read, she was more about mercy and definitely forgiveness and stuff, which could also, Jaune's semblance, be healing and strengthening other people's gifts, which is kind of what she did. She inspired people to be what they were able to be. His semblance could be referencing that, which is cool. I actually really like his semblance.
So yeah, it was basically an unlikely person becoming an important part of a fight for justice.
Despite not really knowing what he's doing or she's doing. Also the gender swap thing, because she did wear men's clothes because it's just easier that way, obviously. Accounts vary as to whether she actually fought in battles or not, but she wouldn't have really been trained anyway, so again, he lines up. Nora! Nora, one of Elizabeth's, your favorite characters. Right.
I mean, I like her, but I don't know if she's one of my favorites.
She was one of your favorites?
Well, maybe. She's Nora Valkyrie. Valkyrie itself is a reference to mythology.
Norse mythology.
Yeah, Norse mythology.
Nora kind of sounds like Norse, too.
Yeah. Valkyries were soldiers. I believe that they were led by Odin.
I don't remember that. They took fallen warriors, though, to heaven. But they did a lot more than that. Not a lot of that really plays into Nora's character much. But she's actually supposed to be Thor, who did cross-dress as a girl once as some kind of scheme to get his hammer back.
And it was stolen from giants.
So she carries her hammer.
It's a pretty funny story.
Her semblance is channeling lightning and getting stronger. Thor was totally one of the strongest of the Norse gods.
Also, I mean, in the actual mythology, it wasn't whoever was worthy to lift his hammer, but it was just so terrifyingly powerful that you had to be very powerful to even wield it, and so most people didn't want to touch it. But
I can bench press 5 of me!
Anyway, the fact is, a hammer that she can use to channel lightning, and
it's also a gun.
It's pretty powerful, so it might be, the fact that it is even a hammer.
I'm a girl, but I'm also a gun. Anyway, yeah. So that's about it for Nora.
Yeah,
I don't think that she's referenced. I mean, she's been in it so little, except in the background.
Yeah, she doesn't really get a lot of solo time.
She never did, but it's just okay with me. I feel like she does fine with what she does have. It suits her, and I like when she gets more serious. But, she's a little crazy, a little hot-tempered. That is also kind of Thor. So, not like Marvel. But, he had red hair, too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Alright, next on my list is Pyrrha. You talk about her, okay?
Joy, you would do it so much better than me.
I'm fine. I'm just still mad.
I'm sorry. Okay, Joy, stop.
I'm sorry. Just go on without me.
As the show will. I'm sorry. That was a little uncalled for. Okay. See, the thing is, I don't know all about Pyrrha's characterization that you do, so you're gonna have to help me.
You know something.
Okay, fine. She's based off of Achilles.
Yes! That's why she got shot in the heel.
Even though that wasn't exactly what killed her, it's definitely what caused her to lose the battle. That must suck.
She was so close.
She was pretty close.
She had so much life ahead of her.
OP.
She had so much life ahead of her. Anyway, Achilles was known as the Invincible Warrior, which is Pyrrha's reputation. I think her gold armor is maybe a reference. I haven't read the Iliad to that point yet, but I think his armor, I forget whether it was gold colored, but something like that, or maybe it was bronze.
Okay, but maybe we should move on past the armor.
Okay. Yeah.
So
towards Tiara, I think he was a prince.
In Achilles' backstory, his mother dipped him into the river Styx when he was a baby, which is supposed to make you invincible. The thing is, she was holding him by the heel so that she wouldn't drop him and he wouldn't drown. But because of that, for some reason, she didn't decide, I might as well stick my hand in there and his heel.
Well, it was dangerous.
I mean, I guess it might be dangerous, but she's a goddess. Why can't you just stick it in there? And then
because it's Greek mythology.
It's Greek mythology, people. So anyway, that was his one non-invincible place. Someone found that out because I think one of the gods told them in the battle. They shot him in the heel with an arrow that is from another myth involving Hercules. But anyway, it was extremely poisonous. He shot him in the heel, and he was dead.
Gone, baby, gone.
In Pyrrha's case, she isn't actually invincible everywhere else, so that's not exactly what killed her, but it is what lost the battle.
Also, Pyrrha was a name Achilles used when he cross-dressed to hide from his enemies, or something like that. That was the name he used, was Pyrrha. Pyrrha means red flame, and she's also named for her hair, which is actually kind of cute. However, Pyrrha and Nikos together means Pyrrhic victory, which is another Greek term. Well, it is also, I think, Latin, but it means a victory that is so costly it is tantamount to a defeat.
Now, because Pyrrha didn't exactly win that battle, it doesn't exactly reflect her. It reflects Cinder, because she beat Pyrrha, but was then burned half away by RWBY.
And basically allowed RWBY to unlock the power that will probably end up killing her, or at the very least, winning the war. So Cinder's victory was
a Pyrrhic victory.
And it also could kind of work the other way, like a loss that is almost a victory. In a sense.
So, in that way, it could reflect Pyrrha's part in that battle.
Do you believe in destiny?
Joy, no.
We'll see.
You've brought down the wrath of the fans!
Oh, they can go
Joy,
write their stupid fanfics and leave me alone.
Yeah, I don't think you should talk.
Girl can hope.
Anyway.
She can hope.
Ren
is a lot more of a cheerful subject.
Mulan.
Completely the Disney Mulan. But at least he better be, because the other Mulan died. Alright, Mulan comes from this, basically this old Chinese song, which I read part of, but it was really hard to understand.
I read the entire thing.
It's like the Ballad of Fa Mulan.
It was weird.
And she was a woman. If you've seen the movie, you know this. Like, she went and cross-dressed as a guy to join the army. Somehow wasn't found out by some very large stretch of gender blindness. It's a myth.
She was just a very manly girl.
I think she was a real person, but like in the myth, she was like in the war for like, I thought 20 years or something, or at least a very long time, as compared to the movie where it's like a few months. You can see it for a few months. But anyway, again, the cross-dressing theme here, all of Team Juniper has that theme. And Ren, she dresses as a man, so Ren is a man. The reference is interesting. When we found out his backstory, he had this water lily. Now, Mulan doesn't really have a water lily, but it does look somewhat similar to the flower in her movie, which is actually a blossom. But it's kind of like... kind of the same idea. The flower sort of represents him, and his people, while the blossom represents her.
Also, I mean, I know that he didn't join a war to save his father, but I think he did become a huntsman, partially motivated by the memory of his parents. And to protect
the references aren't too much
friend, Nora, who is
And of course, as far as I know, it has nothing to do with Norse mythology. So. Yes, his girlfriend. The ship has sailed.
Okay. Anyway.
Be happy. Okay. Well, should we do the villains next or the minor but likable characters?
I guess we'll do it in order.
Okay. So next on my list is Dr. Oobleck.
He's not a villain.
Yeah, I didn't write it in that order.
Oh, okay. So unless you've read a lot of Dr. Seuss, you probably won't get this one.
You can watch our video where Dr. Oobleck reads Bartholomew and the Oobleck if you want to actually know the story
and you want
that
to watch
inspired him.
Our attempt at good comedy, which I think turned out.
You were good.
Pretty good.
You were good.
I think it was funny.
I thought it was funny.
Anyway, so Dr. Oobleck is a reference to the Oobleck, which you would learn more about if you read the book. It's called Bartholomew and the Oobleck. So if you want to get that at a library or something, you can check it out. But basically, it's not a person; it's a thing. So it's kind of weird.
His hair, it's green, and that's the color of the Oobleck.
Yeah, so that's basically
it's the same color. It's weird.
I mean, I can't really say there's any link between him being a very fast-paced person, other than the Oobleck came down very quickly and grew in. The amount of that was coming down in weird rain grew quickly, but I don't think that there's any way to really draw a connection between the two, other than the name and the hair. But I mean,
well, I thought that the story relates to his character in that it's about somebody who's proud, who wants the glory, and Bartholomew, which Dr. Oobleck's first name is Bartholomew, by the way, is no. You don't get that much control. You got to be humble. And how Dr. Oobleck teaches the girls to be more humble about saving the world. And it's not really about them, but about the people, which is kind of what Bartholomew cares about in the book versus the king, who's kind of just in it to look good. So it does reference back to his character, which is cool. I have Professor Port here. I know he's, it's like a song, I think. Or some ballad or something, I don't remember.
I don't know anything about it.
It's a very vague reference.
He could also be a reference to one of the Three Little Pigs, maybe.
You think so?
Well, there's not a lot of evidence other than...
I'm so afraid of the big bad one.
I don't know. There might be some...
That would kind of make sense. But I think it should be Professor Pork, then.
Shh. Okay, look, the fact is, there's not a lot of evidence, but he did use a boar as his example Grimm. He does kind of remind me of one of the pigs, in some respects. So you could read into
and there is that chibi where he's building that house. Oh, no, Winter built the house. But he was talking about it, so...
I have no memory of this.
Well, anyway, so that's interesting. I never thought of that, but we don't know much about him, so let's move on. I have the villains now. I don't dislike all of them, but Cinder, why Cinder? Why Cinder? She is the worst.
Cinderella. Why? That's about it.
Obviously not in character.
I mean, in comparison to her or Cinderella, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I mean...
Other than she wants to be more powerful, but that's not what Cinderella wanted. It's what she got.
I think she did lose one of her shoes, didn't she? When RWBY fought her. Had to be back by midnight. The dance infiltration episode is pretty much the one where we get most of the references to Cinderella, and they're, compared to the others, kind of lame, honestly. She fights with glass. That's the other big reference, which we do get earlier on. And later. Since apparently she still fights with glass, even though why? I still don't get that. Is it her semblance? RWBY didn't think it was, but she's always using it, and we don't know any other semblance. So what is the deal? I don't know. She has an evil stepmother, Salem, except it seems like she actually likes her, so does that work? She doesn't have any parents. Cinderella did have a father, but...
He died. Pretty sure he
died. Oh, yeah, that's right. He died.
Yeah.
So as far as we know, both Cinder's parents are dead. If we ever do get her backstory, it'll probably have more references. She does wear a fancy dress a lot, and
okay, the comparisons just wear thin after
They
a certain
wear
point.
thin. They do. And my personal theory is she's meant to represent the Wicked Witch of the East. The lesser threat, but still a threat, and the one that Ruby, aka Dorothy, cripples kind of by accident. Instead of kills, but cripples. Plus, in Chibi, she does end up getting something dropped on her that looks very much the same as the way it was dropped on Wicked Witch of the East in the movie.
Granted, it was a cart, refrigerator, and Nora, but
still.
Apple's knowing, I don't know.
I think it was on purpose. So she's basically the Wicked Witch of the East. That's enough about her, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, one more thing. As far as the girls go, I think she basically represents the witch in all their stories that involve a witch, which isn't that many. Or in Salem, for the others, represents the witch. But we can get more into that in a bit. Hazel! Okay, I actually like Hazel.
One of the likable ones.
All right, little known. Very little is known about Hazel, other than he is confirmed to be Hansel from Hansel and Gretel. I guess he is kind of enslaved to the witch, which is what ended up happening to both of them in that book. Should have left a trail of breadcrumbs, Hazel.
The fact is, I would compare him to the huntsman as well from Snow White.
It does seem like he is like that.
Nobody needed to die today.
No one needed to die today.
I
Fingers
feel like
crossed.
It hasn't happened yet, but I feel like he wouldn't stoop low enough to kill one of the young members.
Well, I mean, he was gonna kill Nora, but he was high on dust. So maybe in his right mind, he's gonna spare one of them.
Don't do dust, kids. Stay in school.
Definitely. Yeah, I do. I feel like he's also the huntsman. I mean, he looks a lot like him if you've seen the old Snow White movie, and he's dressed like one.
The color similarities are actually quite staggering.
And the huntsman did work for the witch, but again, just seemed too nice to. And Hazel, it's like, what are you doing working for Salem? You're too nice.
I'm protecting my children, even though they aren't.
And he has stepped up for Emerald and Mercury now in season 6. So getting more hints that Hazel's really a good guy doing not good things because of some stupid revenge kick.
Yeah. I don't think his sister is a reference to anything.
She's a reference to Gretel.
Well, other than that...
However, in the story, Gretel's actually the one who remains mobile, while Hansel is the one who's going to get eaten by the witch. So it was a bit of a swap there. But
yeah. So it's an interesting parallel because he's now working for a witch and is definitely out of the frying pan into the fire because he did not go about the best way to stay in her good graces. Not that I blame him. I would hate my job too.
I don't know why they don't just leave. Obviously, there's a reason.
Be murdered, but
probably. Trail of breadcrumbs, like I said. There always should be a way out. All right, Watts. I don't have much to say about Watts. We actually know almost nothing other than he looks a bit like Doctor Who.
He's probably not a reference to a fairy tale I can think of, but maybe a reference to Thomas Edison.
He could be an Oz reference, because there are shady inventors in the Wizard of Oz series all throughout who do weird things with magic and inventions, and we kind of get TikTok the robot, live patchwork girl, other weird concoctions. So he may fit into the story in that way, or it may have nothing to do with it. I did read on his page that Watts is a power source. It's kind of more of an astronomical one because it's really, really powerful.
He's
kind of got that crazy look in his eyes, so he scares me, even though he's done absolutely nothing except intimidate Lionheart.
Yeah, you can
So I think we're gonna find out Watts is a lot scarier than anyone realized.
Yeah,
ominous. All right, let's talk about Tyrian a little bit.
Just a little bit, because I don't really know how much there really is to go off of, and I'd rather not.
His name references the color purple, which is the color of his venom. I know that much. He is, I believe, a light reference to the Scorpion King, from the Dwayne Johnson movie or something.
Possibly.
He's
I
a
feel
faunus.
like the color purple could be referencing
could also be
something
referenced
else.
to the constellation Scorpius. I don't remember that much. Kalos is a bad thing. I forget what it is. It's all creepy stuff basically, but he doesn't reference that much. So
yeah, we don't know if you guys if we are missing anything, you guys can leave a comment.
Yeah, if you know, leave a comment. Let us know. I mean, we're obviously huge fans. Can't get enough of this stuff, right? Okay, let's move on to villains I like a little bit better. Emerald Zustrai. Her last name means something, but I can never remember what it is, and it's her first name that really interests me.
Emerald. So, back to the Wizard of Oz analogy, the Emerald City in of itself was actually not made of emeralds in the book. You were supposed to wear these tinted glasses that are green to keep you from being blinded by the glory of the city.
Oh, good detail. I forgot about that.
But it turns out the city's not actually that great. It's not even made out of emeralds. It was just
regular stone.
And we were told to wear the glasses to make it look more impressive.
And everyone there looks great. Oddly enough, nobody questions this.
This is another reference to Ozpin in several ways, but for Emerald in particular, her power of manipulating what you see and to some degree what you hear.
So you think it's there,
and you think,
but it's not.
Yeah. So basically, she can make you think something is better or worse than it is.
On the note of what you hear, everyone said the city was made of emeralds. So what you heard, but it still wasn't true. Kind of a creepy semblance, I still say, but I like her, notwithstanding. I don't think her character particularly references anything else, lore-wise. Zustrai, again, means something, but it's not really a story. I think it's like a different character in something else. Some other anime, maybe?
Maybe we should look into it. But anyway, so she is kind of a reference to the illusion of what's really going on here. Probably because she doesn't really know all there is to know about the situation.
Also, it's interestingly enough, she's to be a victim of it. Like, she knows it's bad, but she's so blinded by her devotion to Cinder.
Kind of in a similar boat to Neo.
Neo! I didn't put Neo on this list. I knew I forgot. Okay, we'll get to Neo and Torchwick at the end. How about that?
I didn't put down Torchwick either.
No, I forgot Torchwick.
How do you forget the fan favorite?
I'm sorry! Yeah. He's not the favorite. Pyrrha is the favorite. He comes in as a close second or third, maybe.
Whatever.
Depending on what fans.
I'm talking about family, like
Mercury! Mercury.
Okay.
All right.
Mercury black. Again, another color. So references to colors are kind of a big part of the show. I don't really know a lot about, other than Mercury is a poisonous substance, and his character is kind of toxic.
Oh, but I actually have something that no one else has been talking about that I've been excited to share. Mercury is the god of speed in Roman mythology. Not the drug speed, literal speed, because he's a messenger. And Mercury is super fast on his feet. The god Mercury wears winged sandals. So that Mercury has a special thing with his feet is, I believe, a reference, but it is not confirmed. Again, the poisoning color is mostly all we know about him.
Really, the fact he doesn't have legs and they're made out of metal might be a reference to something else, but I can't think of it. So.
We have to find out what his semblance is. So maybe it has something to do with heat. Mercury has something to do with heat, but we'll see. That would be kind of cool, but why would he have never used it? So
because he didn't need to.
Okay. Salem.
Ooh. The big cheese herself.
Jeez. Oh, where to start with her?
Where indeed.
So, Sleeping Beauty. Yes, only if Sleeping Beauty was actually the witch. The girl in the tower, Sleeping Beauty reference.
I thought that was a reference to Rapunzel.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it could be both. Only it says her father put her in there, and Sleeping Beauty's parents were the one who locked her up, not the witch. But since she wasn't asleep, you're right, it is. And she does look an awful lot like Rapunzel, though she also looks like Sleeping Beauty, if you're going by the Disney versions. Let's just say she's both.
Yeah, she's a reference to several things. After she becomes a villain, she's basically every witch from any fairy tale you choose from.
I mean, definitely the ones from The Wizard of Oz.
Yes,
definitely. The Wicked Witch of the West. The one who could be defeated by the silver. We think. We don't know for sure.
Also, something that I thought of, in the movie, as you all probably know, and the book, a bucket of water is what was used to defeat her. just poured on her. I noticed that on the show, water is actually a big part of Salem's backstory. The water from the pool where the god of life stands gives her eternal life in the show.
Which is really a curse.
And the water from the death ponds of annihilation gives her weird grim self that basically just wants destruction, even though she still had a relationship. So I don't get that part. But the fact is, water comes into her backstory quite a bit.
As her downfall.
Yes, as her downfall both times. So I'm pretty sure that water is definitely a reference there.
I don't think it's on purpose, actually, but it's cool. It's interesting, definitely. Some other ways she references...
She has an army.
She has an army. Like, one of the few people in the land of Oz who has an army is the Wicked Witch of the West. And Oz, interestingly enough. But the other countries don't really, as far as we know. I mean, I think Glynda's country did, but it came in only at the end, and they were absolutely no help whatsoever. So, she would be Atlas, honestly, if we were comparing countries. She was, like, the most efficient, the most powerful. But, like I said, it comes in only at the end. So, we're not going to talk about that. But, the witch is also the one Oz blames for being like the threat to humanity, doesn't really know how to get rid of, and wants them to bring something back to prove that they got rid of her, sending these people out to fight for him because he's too scared and he's got to keep up his rep.
Also, the witch wants her slippers.
She wants the power.
And we don't know
I think
for
she
sure.
even wants to take over the land once she has them.
We don't know for sure, but it might even be implied. We'll see what happens in the show next. That since Salem didn't actually say to have Ruby killed, she wants something to do with her eyes.
Well, think about the intimidation levels you would have if you had someone who could destroy Qrow like that.
I've heard someone make a theory that they could somehow be harvested. That's gross.
It is what witches do, but that is disgusting.
But I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
And you don't do that to no Ruby.
Because the way you power the eyes is purely from the mind and not from the eyes itself. So I'm not exactly sure if she could even use them to her advantage. But she might not know that, so she's still going for it.
We will see. I've had enough of her.
Yeah.
Other than her name means peace, and peace is the thing she has to find, or they have to bring, before she can be defeated.
Or changed back into a normal person.
I do have more thoughts on her character, but I'll save that for a different video if I want to make it. Okay. Not this one.
Now 2 minor characters for a little while.
Your favorite!
Glynda! Yes, they faked us out so hard!
Why?
I didn't want another person with Tweedledee Tweedledummer, which is what the two...
I think she's the White Queen from the Alice in Wonderland.
Just a side tangent. We probably won't see much of them again, but that's who we think they represent.
Unless it's just fan service because her and Maria were funny. Oh, Maria! We'll do Maria later.
I keep on forgetting stuff, Joy.
Oh, there's so many characters now!
Yeah.
Winter!
Yes.
Winter Snow. Literally means winter snow, and in my humble and completely unbiased opinion, she is supposed to be the Snow Queen. I mean, she and Weiss are literally called Ice Queen, but we know what Weiss is. I don't think Winter's ever been confirmed to be anything. She's just kind of there.
In some respects, she might be the Snow Queen, as the Snow Queen was some sort of neutral in the book, even if she was leaning a little bit more towards the chaotic side. She did have to have the 2 children who came to her figure out how love works.
In the book, there's a boy and a girl. The boy gets his heart frozen. You might see this as a reference to Whitley in a weird sort of way. And the girl has to come rescue him by solving the puzzle, which is love.
Is this a reference to what may happen later in the show? We don't know.
I hope so.
It could be also that Winter is, what was the name of the girl?
Greta. In a sense. As the one who shielded Weiss from the coldness of their household.
And tried to protect her and help her know what love is before she was stunted by them.
However, as I think we've shown with Blake, being both parts, or with Cinder, being both parts of the story isn't uncommon on this show. She could be both.
Also,
I mean, she could be her own enemy.
Her father could also stand for the Ice Queen in some levels.
I don't think so.
Though he's got...
I don't know if he stands for anything, but
or
if he does,
the house itself could probably represent the palace, because in of itself it is very white and cold, like it was in the book.
I'm not the only one who got like a horror, creepy thing vibe from that house.
Yeah, I don't want to bring it up. So their butler could also, in some ways, represent some of the characters that followed them on the journey, like the deer.
I wouldn't go that far.
But I wouldn't go that far. It's a very loose reference. But
I think so. But if you take it as also a Frozen reference, which many people do, it gets a little bit more interesting, because the two sisters have to help each other love and overcome crappy parents
who were at least left out of this entire thing.
Who were neglectful.
I'm not sure whether to feel bad for him or just to keep on disliking his character as a whole. So
the awkward guy who joins along, who's blonde. That's a stretch. I don't think that Jaune is Kristoff. But yeah, it's like that. Like they have to thaw. So the whole point of the Snow Queen is love conquers all, even messed up perceptions. The mirror also, Weiss's theme song is Mirror. Let's talk about this. This is actually cool, which references the Snow White story with the magic mirror. However, a more interesting aspect of the Snow Queen story is kind of, if you've heard Weiss's song, This Life Is Mine, you know that the mirror was basically her father and reflecting everything in a kind of twisted way, which is what the mirror that's enchanted in the Snow Queen does. Reflects everything in a twisted way, makes you see the world the way the mirror sees it and not the way it actually is, which sounds exactly like what Weiss says in her song. And hang on, the song Mirror is also Winter's theme.
Yeah. In the actual original story, this mirror was made by the literal devil, and that's why
they changed it to a goblin later.
Yeah, I don't exactly know why they did that, but
to be politically correct,
it was shattered, and so you could say that
it was going to mock God, but it got shattered into the wind and went to people's eyes and made them see things differently, and it went to their hearts. They loved evil instead of good. Which, since Weiss's father is the mirror, and that is the effect he seems to have had on Whitley, who, again, if he does represent Hans from the story, was the victim of the mirror. Kai. I'm sorry, Kai. You're right, not Hans. Kai.
So he might represent Kai in some respects.
The one who got his heart frozen.
We don't know if he's going to get a redemption arc. I kind of hope so.
I hope so, but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But I hope so.
So both Weiss and Winter could be Gerda in several respects.
Gerda, not Greta. I'm mixing my fables up. Anyway, so that is an interesting aspect, the mirror, and Winter kind of tried to undo that. If you've heard about the manga with her, it adds a lot of depth to her character, and that's kind of why we like her so much.
So yes, in several respects, the mirror was the true villain of the story, and the Ice Queen was kind of just, we don't know why she did what she did, but she did it because...
This video is so long, I think we might have to make a part 2.
Yeah, we're gonna just continue
it, but we're gonna do it in part 2. Just a second.